Hi, my name is Jared Bystrong. I have lived on South Beach going on 25 years. I have two careers. One is I'm a college professor, and the other is I am the director and founder of the Miami Sound Institute and the South Beach Sound Healing Orchestra. So I get the question all the time, what is sound healing? What is actually happening? Well, sound healing is mainly where we use instruments that are of the earth, that are materials that have vibrational resonance that impacts the body, right? So handmade instruments such as drums, didgeridoos, and then Tibetan bowls and singing bowls and gongs. All of these instruments create overtones that help us go into a meditative state. When we're talking about using sound for healing, what we're really talking about is using sound to help people relax, to help people get out of their head, or to help people get out of their own way. So growing up, I was a pretty wild kid. I was one of 7 children, and living in my household was just like living in the middle of a wrestling match.
Very athletic, very quick.
As a child, I had an immense amount of energy. I don't remember ever taking it easy and relaxing. I had the type of energy that the only way to really express that energy was through physical activity. When I was about 13, I got into the sport of wrestling. And wrestling was just the perfect sport because I had already felt like I'd been wrestling my whole life with my older brothers. And I immediately was just a natural at wrestling. It was something that just came so naturally. And I went through middle school, I was a 2-time county champion. And then by the end of my senior year in high school, I was a state champion wrestler. So I was really just gung-ho, extremely disciplined when it came to physical activity. And I ended my senior year as a Florida State wrestling champion at 145 pounds. When I got out of high school and I entered college, it didn't take very long until I realized that the whole world had changed, that the entire outlook on life, going from high school, what it was like in high school versus college, was just completely different. And I was kind of a fish out of water. You know, I was used to kind of getting my own way and kind of just taking charge of things because I could do that physically. And then all of a sudden in college, all the rules changed and nobody was really interested in that stuff. And what they were interested in was what was in my head and what I could express. And so then I went through this complete metamorphosis and I began to read and write a lot. About a year or two into college, I realized that I really needed an outlet for all my physical energy. I had a lot of injuries that I had gotten when I was young, and they were all kind of coming to surface. And I really needed something to put my energy in that wasn't going to be dangerous or destructive to my body. And somewhere in those 2 years in the beginning of college, I found a drum. And suddenly the drum became a vehicle for all of my energy. I just began to pour my energy into that drum. While in college, the cultivation of learning to play instruments really just changed the direction of my entire life. And I realized that I wanted to be a teacher. And so I began teaching in all sorts of environments, and I became a writing professor for about 4 or 5 years at the college level. Then I became a high school teacher. And while I was teaching, I realized that it was the instruments that I had cultivated were playing such an important role in the classroom because I was bringing the instruments in while teaching students to really help impact them and open them up to learning. After about 15 years of being a teacher, there was a big shift in our culture, and people started to really become opened up to things like meditation and yoga. And I realized at that moment that there was suddenly a space for me to use the instruments that I had learned to play all these years and I was using to help people meditate and be calm. And so I began to create a sound healing practice and that became very popular. I started to do sound healings all around town, big events, hundreds of people. I had done hundreds and hundreds of sound healings for thousands of people over about a 10-year span. And then it got to a point where sound healing became more popular, where there was a lot of people that really wanted to learn sound healing. And so I was a teacher already for many years, and I had been doing sound healing for many, many years. So I put those two together, and I started the Miami Sound Institute, where I began to teach students how to become sound healers. Out of teaching sound healing, I formed the South Beach Sound Healing Orchestra. And that's a sound healing orchestra that is comprised of all of my students, and there's about 25 of us in it. Now I facilitate regular events where there's 200 or 300 or 400 people at those events, and we can do this massive, large-scale sound healing experience. And it's really almost an oxymoron, because when you look at who I was as a kid, this wild, loud, crazy kind of teenager that was always at the center of attention and just really had no calm or cool about him whatsoever. And it's fascinating to find that once crazy, rambunctious kid is now responsible for helping the community relax and be calm. So at one point I was at the center of chaos, and now I'm at the center of calm. And it's just so funny how life turns out sometimes.